Welcome to the Warrior Gamer Headquarters podcast. Lieutenant Colonel Ken Crigliano, your co-host.
Okay. All right. So I'm getting to be more of a ninja with this stuff and knowing how the editing is optimized. Long silences work really good for editing purposes because I had to modify a little bit of some of us over the last video because we had like these kind of weird ums and kind of like staring in space. So I was trying to cut them out of there. All right. So I think standard intros. Okay. So do you want me to do a quick intro for this?
As per usual.
Okay. Welcome to the Warrior Gamer Headquarters podcast. This week we are talking about our event last week, the Veterans Day esports competition that we had a bunch of the DoD teams, the Armed Forces Services. The only folks we were missing were the Marines, and stay tuned for that because we will reattack that. We are also going to continue our conversation about flow, and I will talk about the observations that I had firsthand at our event with these folks in flow, and I will present evidence in the form of video and picture of some incredible feats that I saw and human behavior that I was totally impressed by. So, Bilal, thanks for tuning in, my co-host. And did you get to see any of the evidence of our event last week?
Yeah, on Twitch.tv. I was watching the stream every chance I could get. It was, 45 minutes of studying, 15 minutes of Twitch, and then just kind of back and forth. I had to watch it, and I was really impressed. So I'm looking forward to see some of the evidence that you bring out today.
Yeah, cool. So we had, I didn't watch all of the analytics. I didn't get to see all the analytics, but we do actually have an analytics company going through all of the videos, all of the performances, and there were a lot. I mean, it was like 9 hours of gaming that was going on. But we do have a company looking at the analytics and going through and stripping out some cool stuff. So stay tuned for that. I think that's a week away, maybe two. And yeah, so what was some of the things that you saw that would be very interesting to talk about, especially in light of last week's episode?
As I see in most other tournaments, how, the LAN environment is nothing like the at-home environment. See, at home, you can make as many mistakes as you want without any consequence. But in a LAN, it's make it or break it. Your teammates are there. You have a live audience. You're representing something beyond yourself, and you have to be incredibly focused. And so what you saw in the tournament, again, as you would see in any gaming tournament, you saw folks who could really bring up the heat, and you saw folks who were maybe struggling a little. You're thinking, wait a second, I know this player could perform better had they been at a better state of mind. But what was interesting about this tournament is that I feel like the vast majority, if not all, the players were really in the zone. They were very much in the flow, and I don't know why exactly that might be. But I do see that, from a purely neutral perspective, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of, choking in the moment. People were genuinely bringing it their all, and it was 110% effort, start to finish.
Okay, wait. So this is great. The 2 points. The first one is you talk about the LAN experience. Now, for some folks who may not be familiar, of course, that's local area network, right? And so that term has kind of morphed into like kind of meaning like you're in a place with a team and people are relying on you versus like you're at home, you screw up, you don't know most of these people, who cares? You go get a sandwich from the refrigerator and nobody cares. But this is like that's what you're talking about. Can you elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, the LAN environment can be different depending on which game you're playing, which arena you're in. But generally speaking, it is just imagine if you have your gaming setup. Okay, now standardize that gaming setup. So now everybody virtually is playing on the same thing. People generally bring their own mice and keyboards, but since
All
these
that.
events are typically sponsored, you're playing on a different monitor at times. You're not playing on the same desk, and you might not even have the same amount of space. So I'm looking at my desk, for example. I have some pens over here. I have some trinkets over here. A shamelessly sponsored a NutriGamer energy drink, right? So I have all of these things with me, and it just screams me. This is my desk. But when you're in a LAN environment, that's completely stripped away. You're in the LAN environment, and so you have to readjust to the environment, and that can throw you off your gameplay. I mean, we're talking about people playing at the highest level, and they're looking at things that are really, really small. They're talking about decimal points where their sensitivity numbers on their mice, how far on the mouse pad they have to track in order to get a headshot, all these little details. And now they're suddenly put into this different environment. And so there's definitely a level of adaptability that you need to have in order to thrive in that environment.
Okay, and so it's good. Let me pull this thread. Sorry, I had to get my notes. If you can't tell, there's no axes behind me. I'm in a hotel and I literally like landed minutes ago and ran to the hotel to turn this podcast on for you guys. So for our audience. So this is great. What I did see, Bilal, and I'm not entirely certain on the monitors, but I saw monitors being moved around. But I definitely saw keyboards. Like there were, I think, 6 rooms where the gaming was occurring, and people had their own keyboards, their own mice, and I mean, I should have like expected that, but I didn't even think about it. And so yeah, and the army team came and they put on little like stuffed animals on their computers, and they said, yeah, it's for attention and to feel like have like something familiar that's sitting on the computer. So is that what you're talking about?
Exactly what I'm talking about. Because anything that you can do to put yourself in the environment that you want to be in, you got to do it. Because this is a tournament environment, you're going by their rules. You can't just start up the game whenever. You can't just sit down in your chair. However, there are rules that you have to follow, and those rules can break your flow. So we were talking about flow the other day. This environment can break your flow. And I think in this tournament, from what I've seen, is that people were pretty good at adjusting. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So
Mhm.
how do you know that? So how do you have that expertise to be able to go, oh, these people like totally like sat down and got right into it.
Bias. I'm biased because they're active duty, right? Some of the active duty and stuff. So they're trained a certain way. And when they come onto the stage, they're not shaking. They know how to conduct themselves because they're usually put in environments and where they have to perform. So this isn't something that is new to them. This isn't a foreign environment. The kind of stoicism and level-headedness that you'd see at some of the greats. Look at, Faker from League of Legends. I mean, he's performing consistently no matter what. But then you have some new folks who they need a little help, they need a little push. And I think people are pretty consistent in their performance overall in this tournament. These are hard fought games. Like it wasn't that one team was completely better than the other. I mean, everybody had to bring their all. It was really fun to see.
Yeah, I tell you, like this is very new to me. All of this experience is new to me, and it's exciting. I mean, it didn't let down. And I've been to the Olympics. I've been to multiple world championships where they literally roll out the red carpet, and like this was at that level, at that caliber. And Shenandoah University, I mean, they pulled out all the stops. I mean, it was it was pretty awesome. And if you saw like some of the pictures that I'll pull up in a minute, but some of the pictures and that space that they temporarily have was awesome. And they're building out like a huge thing. I mean, the lights were low. I mean, everything was just like it was pretty impressive. Like very impressive.
So what my one of my friends, he used to play for the Blue Devils. It's a drum line, right? Or I think it's a drum line. Hold on. I mean, if anybody knows about the Blue Devils, don't come on my case for saying anything wrong about that. But pretty reputable drum corps, I guess, is what you want to call it. I'm not an expert, but essentially what he told me was, every time you practice, you can expect. It doesn't mean this always happens, but you can expect that you're not going to be performing at your 100%. So if you're practicing at 100%, the real thing may be, 10 to 15% worse. So you need to try your best to practice like you perform, really try to exceed that limit so that when you do perform, you can be at your best at all times.
Yeah, so when I did Beastmaster, the Netflix show, that was the greatest collection of athletes I've ever been around, to include being at the Olympics. And I mean, these people were incredible. But the filming was so crazy. We filmed all night. Nobody knew when they were going to compete. Nobody knew when to eat. They didn't know when to take energy. I mean, it was just chaos. And it was like assembly line, and it broke. The three best athletes that showed up broke. And I was like, whoa. And I was like, I don't care. I just showed up. Just being here is like incredible. So I wasn't really like super nervous, but I can see where this has the same element where it's like, I've put in 1,000 hours. Some of these gamers were telling us how long that they had been on these games. They are incredible. And can you imagine like doing 1,000 hours on your own computer in your space, in your chair, and then coming into a totally different environment where you got people right next to you, they're yelling at you, the other team's over there, every time you get shot, they're yay! I mean, that's probably equivalent of being out, on the turf with 10,000 fans from the guy, or 50,000 fans.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if you don't know how to swim and then the coach is like, all right, you're going in. That's pretty much how it feels. I mean, and you can't make excuses, right? Like if you're playing at a lower level, people can say, oh, well, it's your first time in that environment. It's just, give it some time. You're going to adapt. Or like, no, you can't do that. You can't make any of those excuses. Oh, I was practicing at home and the environment was too bad. You have to perform. And I think these players, they knew that going in. So that's why for me, it was really fun to watch.
Yeah. So let me see if I can share my screen in good measure without it taking up too much time. All right. Can you see my Veterans Day event?
Veterans Day event. Yes.
All right, cool. Make sure I'm maximized. Okay. So first, like I said about Shenandoah, we had buffet, 3 meals. It was pretty awesome. So here's one of the spaces, like a backup room. And then here was the main kind of competition area. And this is me doing my little director's view here. But this one is really cool where, they had their standard box configuration. But like, see, this dude has like rainbow colored keyboard. This guy has something else. And this gal over here has something. So it definitely appears as though people are bringing their own things. And then you had these 2 sets of announcers. One was on the floor, as you can see. That's the guy I was just pointing at. These 2 guys are to my left as I'm taking this photo. And then there's 2 other guys behind me in 2 rooms behind me who are doing some other announcing. And so there's a lot of stuff going on here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it really just goes to show, like, when they put on a production, it's like, oh, spotlight is on. And the spotlight is kind of like a headlight. You hear a deer in the headlights. You can see some people have that same effect here. Even for the shoutcasters, like, I don't know how long they've been shoutcasting for, but I really enjoyed listening to them and the commentary that they had to make. if they were new to shoutcasting, this idea of having to talk and commentate for, hours, that they're going to be nervous. They are going to stumble on their words. They have a light. You can even see it right in that video. They have a light right in front of them. They have the cameras constantly rolling, and they have to perform as well. It takes a whole ecosystem in order to make this what it is. And I think that's what makes it really awesome.
It's just the coolest. I mean, it was really cool, especially since in like, game sports, physical sports, ball sports, the announcers, you don't ever see them. I mean, they're somewhere way somewhere else. These people were 2 feet away. I was interacting with them. I was actually like walking in front of them at one point because I just didn't know, I didn't know what I was doing. But here, to be able to capture all of the elements of everything going on was really impressive. And what was super impressive is the software that Shenandoah University was using in the background to capture all of this. I had no idea, Bilal. You're going to school me on this, but evidently the game has like spectator view that when they're doing these competitions, these game makers design specific capabilities in the games so that when they're doing competitions, it makes it easier for the announcers and spectators. I mean, they were swapping to views, and we could see everyone on the map. So when someone was coming out around the corner and somebody dropped, a smoke grenade or something, like, even though they couldn't see, we could see. And we're like, oh no, oh, it's gonna go down, it's gonna go down, and then bam, it would go down. I mean, it was so cool, man.
Yeah. No, it's super, super amazing. Like you get to basically see the strategy on both sides unfold. And based off the audience reaction, I mean, it can just explode or it can immediately go down. There was actually this what you just said reminded me of something. There was a clip in CS:GO. It was a 1 versus 1. I forgot who the other player was, but one of them was Simple. Simple is like one of the greats of CS:GO. And he was pointing, he had an AWP, an op, and he was pointing at a wall. Okay, and right behind that wall was the other player. He didn't know that, but the audience did. So the audience started going like, oh, their voices started raising up, and that's when Simple knew, okay, there's somebody behind this wall. And you know what he did? He just threw the gun over the wall. He didn't even shoot him. He said, oh, well, the audience just gave it away, so I'm just gonna give up my gun. That's competitive integrity right there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let me show you this in how complex the announcers must have had it. This is me really admiring the skill sets. I just wanted to see this guy's hands. I mean, his eyes, just
everything, just so zeroed in.
The cycle of the eyes was really interesting to me, and the way that the hands were moving. And let me see, I
think when I saw that clip, the person next to them was not making any moves, right?
Yeah, I think that was either the coach or that dude was dead.
Yeah, so since this Valorant's a 5v5, right? So I'm gonna assume, well, 5v5, but there's 6 people here, so it could have been the coach. But assuming they were dead, now imagine the stress.
Yeah.
So we're talking about seeing everybody's motions, but then like as people are dying, you can literally look at that one person and see their motions. And what must they be thinking? Oh, everybody's looking at the way I move my mouse, how I click the keys. I mean, you're super, super dialed in. And, traditional sports, they don't really have that, right? Basketball, everybody's moving. I mean, of course, people are looking at you when you have possession, but when you don't have possession, you're doing something. And so like your eyes are kind of everywhere. But in esports, 5 becomes 4 becomes 3, 1v4 situation. Oh my God, there's nothing like it.
Oh, it's so great because like all I can think about is like when you said that is like all these guys and gals have the ball at all times, right?
Yes.
Until you get shot, right? But it was really cool to also see a very different aspect, which is like, I think this gentleman here is their coach. How they're all talking to each other and he coaching them along and being able to be outside of that stress environment to where he can kind of like coach them on things to do, right? Live in game. That was really cool to me too. And I didn't expect that. So here's some cool pictures. But
Another thing that this reminded me of, we were talking about sports. I mean, I also grew up playing sports, and I remember the first sport that I played long term was soccer. I played that for 5 years, and completely different feeling, right? Because, one person has the ball at all times, right? But what's also different is the audience. Who's the audience in like a kid's soccer game? It's parents. It's parents, it's family. Everybody's happy. You get those few, very few parents who are like, "Oh, my kid's better than you." Extremely few. I mean, that's like the LeVar Ball. I mean, you don't get many parents like that, right? But for the most part, people are really, really encouraging. And if you're messing up, the other parents they're not making fun of you. They're just saying, "Oh, you can do better. Oh, you got hurt. That's okay. We can take care of you. Here's the juice box." There's all this support, and it kind of warms you up to the environment so that when, these athletes start playing at a high school level. Now, I never played sports at a high school level. Now it's a little different because now you have students who don't even know about you who are sitting down, and now they're going to talk trash. That's when the trash talking really begins, is when you're at a high school level. And what's interesting is video gaming, you don't have any of that. I mean, that it's on the come up now, but you really didn't. When you played video games, you played in the safety of your home. You didn't go out and compete with parents watching, with that supportive environment. The first time you compete is in an environment like this. Now imagine the stress. You're really being tossed into the deep end here.
Oh, that's very interesting because and before I show this video, let me get on that. So I started playing Rocket League, and I tell you what, like a duck to water, buddy. That I can do. This thing too complicated for me. Valorant was very challenging, even though I'm doing okay with it. But my goal next year is to be on the Air Force team that competes for Rocket League and be the first person to ever be on an Air Force physical sports team and an e-gaming team. That's my goal.
Ooh, I like it. I like it.
But on your point is I don't know any of these people. So when I screw up, it's like, oh yeah, who cares? Like, oh God, I can't believe I did that. But I played like 6 games in a row for the first time. And like I think it was a dude, a gal, I don't know. I had someone stick with me for like 3 games. And I really did like feel the pressure, like, oh, this is like the 3rd game with this gamer. Now he has expectations of me or she. And I really did feel like that pressure. So I get exactly what you're saying. Like, these guys and gals here playing with each other. I mean, that there must be a lot more pressure.
Definitely.
Yeah. So let me show you this thing. I'm gonna tell you something, and I hope the audience laughs at me right now because. So see this image. I'm so glad I captured this for our podcast. But see those folks who are in yellow back there. For folks who may not have caught or may not know what this is. This is what we're talking about. This is spectator view. This is like audience view where we can actually see the other team in yellow. This guy holding the weapon is red. And so this is where you're going to laugh. For about 4 hours, I didn't know that this was spectator view. I thought they all could see each other, that it's just like a game mod. And so this is how good these people are, is that I thought this gamer right here could see those other people because he was so darn good. It was amazing how, like, there's no way. So just to know, like, that's where someone's going to pop out, and those crosshairs is exactly where that character's head is going to be. And it was a millisecond to be able to detect that pixel on that screen and for him or her to shoot. I mean, it was incredible.
Yeah. And the great thing too is all this information is pretty hidden from you. The play isn't really being made kind of in your face in such a dynamic way. It's all hidden, and then it all comes out at you. And you just kind of have to suspect it, right? You can suspect plays in other sports, like football, for example, great example. You kind of have to suspect the play. It's more about the bigger picture. Watching it from the top, super fun. It's really a battle of the coaches, battle of wits in football. And Valorant is kind of similar in that you kind of know what's going to happen, but you don't know when it's going to happen. So you can be that player. You can put your crosshair there. You can say, okay, I have a feeling if someone is going to show up, they're going to show up from here. You hold it for 30 seconds. Nothing happens. The 31st second, boom, you're dead. Just like that.
I was a little perturbed because I went in the back in the production office, and these people are serious, by the way. Like, I mean, it was a professional, like I said, I've been Netflix, all that stuff. This was a very professionally run thing that Shenandoah University was doing. And I was back there and I was like, why can't we like just take the video camera and move around the course and like not be on a person's eyes? And they said that capability has not been built yet, but I'm willing to bet that very shortly we're going to be able to just fly around the map and like fly through walls and look at battles and stuff. Is that something that you've seen before or what?
I've seen that in plenty of other games.
Oh, really?
I'm actually surprised Valorant doesn't have that. Actually, I didn't even think about it when I was observing. I just kind of like took it in. CSGO has it. Rainbow Six has it. I mean, League obviously has it, but I didn't think that Valorant didn't. I didn't know it was just a first person view and you had to switch. Whereas these other games, they have options, right?
Yeah, maybe I got bad gouge or something, but there was not at any point in time where I was there did I see it not be from someone's eyes that there was a weapon being held.
Right. They do sometimes do this thing. I mean, I'm sure Valorant has this as well. I could be wrong because I haven't spectated enough games to really pay attention to this, but they have an option where you can see it from a spectator mode as well as from their point of view. So you mentioned the players in yellow who are behind the wall, that's spectator view. But in the person's view, there's no person in yellow, right? So you can kind of switch back and forth between that. So I've definitely seen that in games where they're like, oh, here are all four players. And then they switch to the first person view. This is what this person is saying. Now we just got to wait and then boom, just like that. So they do switch between the views. I'm just really surprised that they don't have that, top down view of like the whole map.
Yeah, that would have been cool. And maybe next time we go for that. And then I know must have been challenging in the back to like if there's two gamers, opposite teams enclosing on each other to be able to like switch back and forth. I know that must have been challenging because I saw the screens back there. I mean, it was like spaghetti. I mean, it was just stuff all over the place. They had spreadsheets. They, just to do the logos and to, get the name, load I mean, it was a lot of work. Like I didn't even think about it, but they had to load their team logos in there. I mean, it was significant amount of work. It was incredible.
It's an entire production, right? And I think that just goes to show how serious this is.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm so glad you said that. So there were some interesting folks who came in and to watch people in the industry and everything. And I had very interesting talks with some folks on the future of this. And I said, and I will say it here in front of everyone, if this was me, I would raise $100 million and I would build a esports stadium that is directly designed for this industry, and I would be the first to market. You got Dallas Stadium is billions of dollars, right?
Yep.
There is nothing yet that I know of that is like caters to this where you aspire like, okay, I'm going to be putting in my few thousand hours. My goal is being in that stadium, like somewhere, and wherever it is. But that's exactly what I do. I'd be the first to market. I'd lock in the sponsorships. I would lock in a 4-year schedule. I would get every single game, and games that are in development, I would be talking to those developers and go, okay, when this game hits in a year, your championship a year later is going to be here. That's going to be awesome. That would be awesome. Someone's going to have to do that.
Yeah.
It was amazing to watch. I mean, the announcing, the spectating, the digital presence and the telemetry of the players. And I can't wait until we start seeing the real data too. I was talking to the data analytics folks about like, what about heat maps and like death heat maps on the map, and that sort of stuff. Player statistics are great, but like I want to see like real big data analytics on this stuff, which I think will come soon.
I'm sure it will. I mean, these tournaments have been hosted at, some pretty nice stadiums so far. I know League of Legends in particular. I believe I'm trying to look it up right now. I think one of the world tournaments, I believe the 2020 tournament, was held in the Olympic Stadium in China.
Oh, the Bird's Nest?
The Bird's Nest. That's what it's called. I knew it was Nest. I just didn't know what it was called.
There.
Bird's Nest, yeah. It was held there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So they're doing it. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's cool. All right. Well, we wanted this to be a shorter one, kind of a summary of the coolness that Warrior Gamer pulled off last week. And hats off, kudos to our boss, Josh Otero, founder. I mean, his vision, he worked tirelessly to put that thing together and to assemble an incredible team of people that would put it together through the hearts and minds. And we did have Gold Star Gamers there, which was awesome. And they played Smash Brothers. And that was really cool to watch too. I mean, the acrobatics and the skills. And I mean, the moms were going crazy, man. I mean, I was like, woo! I mean, the energy in that place was just, I mean, like, it's like a soccer game. It was,
mm-hmm.
And I know that they got remember exactly what they got, but I know they had some PlayStations, Xboxes, and the VR kit. So I think from Meta, and our sponsors Verizon they came through big time. So we're super thankful for them.
Definitely.
So Bilal, if folks want to contact us on our social, where would they go?
The number one place would be WarriorGMRFoundation.org. All of our socials are there. Any information about events, our Discord, our social media pages, you can find it all on the website. Even this podcast, one episode of there is on. So we'll be hoping to have more and soon to come on Spotify and Apple as well. I will say on the topic of, LAN and tournaments, I am actually talking to the MVP of the Valorant tournament, Stray, and he's actually pretty interested in coming on the podcast for an episode. So I'm thinking we can bring him in soon, perhaps even next week, so we could stay tuned for that. And we're looking pretty excited for that.
And our gracious Verizon sponsor, where we will have our main POC here on the show as well. We've been lining up some folks. We're doing some things in the shadows here. So if you're just tuning in, and if you're kind of on the fence, jump over, come to ours. The grass is definitely greener here, and tell everyone you know. Spread it on Discord, TikTok, everywhere, because we're going to have some seriously awesome folks all the way out until March. We're hoping to get some folks lined up, and then all the way into the summer. So if you know anyone that could be a really entertaining or interesting guest, please let us know. And I think that SC is working on getting us an inbox that folks can drop things to us. And also make sure you visit us on YouTube. This is where this is being published as well. So pending any follow-ups, this is going to conclude our third episode.
Was that number 3 or number 4?
Well, so we have the intro, which is episode 0, because it's not a real episode, it's a pilot.
Okay.
And we had to produce that to see if Mr. Otero would approve us as hosts. We didn't suck, so that was good. According to him, at least. I'm sure a lot of people would think different, but we got approved. So, yeah, man.
Nice.
Great. Thanks for joining.
All right. See you next time.
Warrior Gamer Headquarters Podcast. Out.